story of your background and how you came to Capstone. What is that story?
Started out as an RA, my undergraduate college up at SUNY Potsdam in northern New York, and needed to do something to help augment my ability to pay for college, and standard what most RAs do, and continued on there with my school, and they had a position that was going to open in the freshman dorm, and they wanted me to continue on that because I knew I was continuing with my education, so got into the RD type job at that point. Enjoyed doing that and had been going to become a teacher up until that point, and sidetracked off of the teaching field and continued on as an RD. Did that for several more years, both at Binghamton University in New York and then at University of New Hampshire. Got into managing apartments at that point, and had gone to a conference in Kentucky, I believe it was, and met Masha down there, and she had talked to me about what Capstone was like and said, if you're ever looking for a job, look us up. And I was a couple years later and looked up Capstone and got into working with you all out in Frostburg at that point.
So how did Masha describe Capstone? What do you remember about what she told you about Capstone at that time, and what was your perception of our company?
She was asking me what I was doing with managing the apartments at the University of New Hampshire, and was describing what I would be doing with Capstone or could be doing with Capstone as pretty much the exact same thing that I was doing with University of New Hampshire. So it seemed a logical next step to be able to take on some more responsibilities in relation to budgeting and more of the facilities aspects with that. So she said you'd be doing the same job with, getting some additional experiences that I might not be able to continue getting with New Hampshire.
So what was your perception of private management companies then, and how has that changed now?
Up to that point, I honestly hadn't heard of private and public. Northern New York is a pretty secluded area, so there's not a whole lot of colleges. It was all managed by the university themselves. So the first time that I had heard of the public and private designations was when I met with Masha in Kentucky and did some looking into where Capstone was and what they did, and didn't really see it as much different at that point. Hadn't heard the comments of, the black side of the tracks and all that kind of thing up until that point. So didn't see it that it would really be, a difference from what I was doing, that it would just be a different way of doing the same thing that I was doing and a different person paying me.
Has your perception or has your approach to providing your services at managing the facilities that changed since you've come to Capstone?
I wouldn't necessarily say that it has changed. I might do some things a little bit differently based on who we're having to go through with the university and how to pave that road so that they understand where we're coming from and why we would do it in a specific way, but mostly continuing the same way that I have been.
Okay. And how would you describe Capstone on campus's values, and how do you see those values influencing what you do every day and what you do in your profession, your career?
I would see our biggest value is making sure that we're providing for the students that we're servicing, and the universities, that is their primary goal, is making sure that they're taking care of their residents, and I see us as doing the same thing. And the decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis are dependent on how will that affect my students, and even if it's something that is going to negatively affect the students, like having to turn off their power for several hours, how can we portray that to them so that it's not making it their hassle that we're having to do this. How can we explain it to them so that they understand why we have to do this and what we're going to do to try to make that transition easier for them.
So talk to me about a typical day at where you work, and what does that involve? What's a typical day for you?
There is no typical days. We have a very small staff, so we all don't have our own individual jobs. We do have an office coordinator, an assistant director, and myself as the director. Because it's just the three of us in the office, we all do everything. We will answer the phones or create the folders for new applicants of prospective students that are wanting to live with us, doing tours at our two facilities, helping clean up floods that might come into the building, or taking care of, helping out our maintenance person. We do a little bit of everything. And that's a typical day is a random day with us. We do deal with everything as it comes through, working with our students. whatever their needs are that day. If, we've got a lot of our students are all graduate students, so they all have different time frames of when they are on break, so having questions of when they can leave and not leave, and can you hold our packages for the next 2 weeks, because I actually have my break right now. So it's really influenced by how the students are, what their days are like that day.
So what gives you the most satisfaction in what you do for Capstone? Are there any particular stories that you could tell about things that have really made you feel good about what you do, where you work?
I think for right now with Fayette Square, just having that seamless transition with the university, the students don't necessarily see us as Capstone employees. A lot of them don't even know who our paycheck comes from, and being able to provide services as Capstone on-campus management under the auspices of the University of Maryland, and being able to have the students get the services they need without having to worry about who that's coming from.
Any particular accomplishments that you've been able to, any things you've been able to accomplish that you come to Capstone that you're particularly proud of?
Creativity with budget. We're a tight site, and Frostburg was also a fairly challenging budget site, so being able to keep doing the things that we need to within the building and providing programs and services on a tight budget, but being able to be creative with what we're needing to do.
Okay. How does the home office provide you support? How do they help you do what you do every day?
Pretty much anything that we might need. If we're having IT issues, we're calling on a regular basis. I am not IT worthy here, so making a lot of calls for that. Or, if we're having issues with budgets or with particular vendors, if we're working on a specific project and we need a new vendor, I can go through the home office to see if there's any suggestions for folks that we might go through. Marketing, being able to create marketing pieces that we can use with our prospective students, or if we're doing a specific program with our residents.
And what do you do when you have a challenge? Who do you reach out to within the organization? How do you get support?
It really depend on what that challenge is. I'll reach out to local directors in the area. We pool our resources as much as we can. So I'll reach out within the Maryland area first. My supervisor obviously is always a good resource, and then reaching out from there depending on that situation of who might be the best possible person to assist with that.
Okay. And are you involved professionally with other organizations that help further your personal and professional career?
Mm-hmm. I participate with ACUHO on a yearly basis, and I have been with the programming committee with ACUHO for, I believe, 9 years this summer, helping out with approving and coordinating the programs that are selected for the presentations at each annual conference. So that's been my major participation.
And if you were to describe Capstone to someone else, Capstone on campus, in 2 to 3 words, what words would you use to describe what you experience on a daily basis?
That's a curveball.
Just think about it. We just roll the film. So
yeah, a fun group of people that provide the support you need, I think would be.
A fun group of people? So what's fun about them?
We have every walk of life represented, and when the group gets together, we have a good time, but we can also get a lot of work done.
That's great. Any other stories that you'd like to tell us about what you do or what you've experienced since you've been at Capstone?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. All right. Well, this is great.
Well,
Very good.
Talk about an omelet or something here.
Oh, okay.
An
So we're
omelet.
gonna get some B-roll film.
Right.
This is just shots.
You're just talking.
faces
I just
and
want to get some other
Okay.
transition
Well,
shots.
we made a joke because we asked somebody, how do you make an omelet, or do you like to make omelets? We were just,
I actually make omelets every Monday.
okay.
You're a Monday omelet.
I'm a Monday. My partner and I have a very distinct menu that we eat every week. So
It's
Monday is
awesome.
omelet day.
Is that because of dietary issues, or because you just like to have consistency?
Omelet Mondays are awesome.
Omelet Mondays are awesome. No, we had
Okay.
done P90X a couple of years ago, and it's a very structured diet plan. So
Okay.
we're not doing that any longer, but we fell into very certain menus from that we like. So we're like, okay, it was omelet Monday.
Okay, so what is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday?
Tuesday's usually cereal. That's boring.
No. Cereal Tuesdays. I am in on cereal
No.
Tuesdays.
Wednesday's sausage sandwich, and Thursdays are smoothies.
Okay.
Friday's whatever we throw together. Friday we're usually out of food because
Yeah, Friday,
grocery
chicken
shopping's
and
Friday
food.
night, so it's like what's left.